Bolle would hope to do well here, but the Dutch and Belgian riders would be favourites in these conditions. But it was the unfamiliar name of Mark Jones that led the riders into the first corner. Jones, who'd been signed by Radson Honda following Evert's injury, was followed in second by fellow British rider Cooper. Hughes hit trouble when he fell. This was dream stuff for Jones, who was leading a World Championship race for the first time. After a bad Grand Prix in Greece, Cooper was having his best ride of the season. Jones held the lead for a lap, but Cooper was challenged by Remy van Ries. Jones was showing no sign of nerves, the Welshman repaying the faith shown in him by the Honda team. But whether he could keep up his pace for 40 minutes was in doubt. The votes had moved up to third ahead of Cooper. Jones was overtaken by Van Ries at the end of lap 2. The votes was also closing in to make his move. Van Ries looked back to see who posed the biggest threat. It was Belgian Vervoorts who was to challenge, but first he had to get past Jones. That didn't prove too difficult for the Belgian, and next in his sights was going to be Van Ries. Jones was finding it hard to hold off his more experienced opponents, Byra being the next to pass the Welshman. Championship leader Bolle was carving his way into the leading group of riders, but was some way off leader Van Ries. It wasn't easy for Bolle to make up ground, but passes like this showed he was determined. It wasn't the best of races for Bolle, but he was on his way to 5th place and was already showing his championship mettle. Good news for Bolle was that Vilman had pulled out of the race. Van Ries had looked in control of the race, but his hold on the number 1 spot came under serious challenge from Byra. The home fans obviously wanted Van Ries to win the race, but Byra was the faster of the 2 riders. When Van Ries left the way open for Byra to go through, the German didn't need a second invitation. One Kawasaki rider had taken over from another. Byra had done enough to take a race victory, winning narrowly from Van Ries. Byra had taken his 2nd race win of the season. The vote still waited for his first win after finishing 3rd. Perhaps the Belgian would break his duck in race 2, but only if he got out of the gate amongst the leaders. Well, it couldn't have gone more to plan for the Belgian as he led Byra and the rest of the 30 riders through the S-bend at the end of the start straight. Things weren't looking any better for Vilman than in race 1. He was stuck in mid-pack where several riders became involved in a pile-up. Kawasaki riders again occupied the first 3 places, with Vervoorts ahead of Byra and Van Ries. Vervoorts had seen his chance of winning race 1 spoiled by a fall. He wasn't going to make the same mistake this time. Any hopes Van Ries had of another podium finish were coming under threat from Bolle. The Dutchman was doing well in his home Grand Prix, but the Frenchman also showed a liking for the deep sand of Valkenswaard. But passing Van Ries would be a lot harder for Bolle. And the Frenchman couldn't afford to make mistakes, as he did here when he lost valuable time on Van Ries. Van Ries and Bolle were setting such a pace that they caught up with Byra, making it a real scrap for 2nd. But Van Ries couldn't find a way past Byra. As the battle raged on, any one of the 3 riders could take 2nd. Bolle made the first move when he passed Van Ries. But the battle was far from over. Van Ries fighting back at Bolle. In the next corner, Van Ries was able to reclaim 3rd place as he powered his way past Bolle. But when Van Ries crashed, Bolle went through to chase after Byra. That mistake was to prove costly for Van Ries. After getting his bike started, the Dutchman threw away his goggles. He had no answer when Hughes powered past to take over fourth place, even if the American nearly stalled his engine. Byron was still in second place, but Bolle was free of Van Rees and closing in. Although it was early in the season, Byron and Bolle were already title contenders. So gaining the upper hand here would give both riders a boost, even if the race win was out of their grasp. Bolle found second place handed to him on a plate, when a fall by Byron made the Frenchman's job simple. Pavotes had also found the going easy, but he'd set up his first race win of the campaign by making a good start and staying out of trouble. He was able to take the closing laps of the race easy on a track where he'd enjoyed success in the past. And it was a popular win as there were many Belgian fans in the crowd. Pavotes had made it 4 different winners in 6 races this season. Even so, he wasn't that far ahead of Bolle as he crossed the finish line. Pavotes made the most of the applause.